My God, folks, we're back sooner than expected. We are here. What are we? Not even a day. Far from a day, in fact. Not even close. From removed from the Tokyo Dome show. We're back. I did say there was a chance we'd do a Dynamite post show. I think if you heard me say that and then watched the show, you were pretty aware that I was going to go live. It seemed inevitable. It's been quite the day here in the land of professional wrestling. Dynamite in the books, first of 2023, the reboot, quote unquote, which was very funny how quickly that part of the show just completely left my memory. Special show from my perspective. I've been mostly off, so I'm assuming that that's the take generally. I don't know if there's people that are not as high on it. I don't know, chat, you tell me what you thought, but man, I thought they nailed it in terms of specifically Seattle, right? I think that requires a certain degree of planning that I think for a while there Tony seemed to lose. Like, it felt like things were spotlighted neatly. I understand why people wanted to say different with Brian. We'll get into the segment. That was I thought one of the only flaws of the show, actually. The match itself was fucking a hoot. The swerve thing I thought was a big time thumbs up. And then the main event, I mean, good Lord. So basically, I'm here to just hang out. We'll look at, I'm going to look at the chat and we'll talk through the show kind of loosely. I don't know how long they'll be here. We'll see how it goes. But I just thought I'd jump on because I thought the show was fucking awesome. And more than that, I'm just sort of broadly in a wrestling upswing right now because, I mean, look, man, you can get disgruntled easily. You can get frustrated with things in wrestling. And I think sometimes we're all too close to it. We're all too online. We're all too, like, every momentum swing is like, it affects you. And it's like, sometimes you just need a little perspective. You can take a step back. And it's like, fuck, man, there's a lot of stuff to be really excited about and to enjoy. It's different for everyone, right? Like, my recent uptick in interest is certainly assisted by Joe being front and center. That's fucking awesome for me. But I think you can find something, even if it's not Joe or it's not whoever, Jeff Jarrett, whoever it is, and you can find something to enjoy in wrestling right now on whatever show it is you prefer. Because it's just, I don't know, man. Sometimes you see these little runs here, like this last 24 hours, I guess would be the way. Honestly, the last week, there's been a lot of good stuff. It's a cool time. I'm excited right now. Very, very good mood. To see how you guys are. Before I do, shout out to Sam, who has cheered 100 bits. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for that. Helps us out a lot. Let me have a look here what we got in the chat, and we'll kind of talk through what comes up. Okay. Oh, fucking hell. Wrestling, woo. Fleet flying. It feels like it, man. I think they had some very nice TV between Arthur Ashe and Full Gear. But it wasn't fleet flying levels. I think post Full Gear, they've been fleet flying. It's been now just shy of 2 months. I think next week will be 2 months since Full Gear. And it really feels like Tony's, work creatively is about as focused as it's been, to me anyway, since like 2021. So it's interesting how, in a weird way, quality-wise, I think the reset that was forced upon them with Brawl Out may have helped Tony himself. And again, whether you like the show or not, that's a different thing. It feels to me like he's really locked in on a cast of characters and he's like making more clear decisions, more coherent decisions. And we've debated this a lot, and I was a big proponent of that kind of adjustment. So I might like it more than you, for example. But I think he's really on like a nice run right now. He feels like he's in a rhythm creatively, and things are like nicely, patched together. I think he's doing a good job. Shida heel turn. Well, this was one of the headlines of the show, right? People were looking for the latest on. 1 second. Oh yeah, people were looking for the latest on the Mercedes front or who the tag partner is going to be, and we got the interesting segment where Saraya picked Tony, much to the chagrin of Shida. Just to be clear, obviously, doesn't change at all my stance on who I think we're going to see next week, whether she wrestles or not. I think we're going to see Mercedes Moné. But it was an interesting segment. It certainly felt like a Shida heel turn was set up there. I would say that's a very safe bet, yeah. The question is, is Shida going to take Tony out of the match? That would be my current assumption. We shall see. I've been a big proponent of Shida turning heel for a while, just because I feel like personally, after the title run and stuff, you're probably at a point with Shida where you've explored her enough as a babyface, not as much as you could have, obviously, goes without saying. She could have been on TV a lot more, but you probably feel like you could give her a really fresh lick of paint as a heel. And especially because it's worth noting, Jamie Hayter's not going to be a heel forever. It goes without saying. So you can kind of tighten up the heel side with Sheeta over there for when Jamie eventually flips. That's nice. And also, got to put it out there, you're pretty much setting yourself up to do Sheeta and Mercedes pretty early, if indeed that's where we're going. So I think that'd be pretty good, is my hot take. Oh, how? What a crowd tonight. Yeah, man. I mean, it was a big talking point, right? Like when they get in front of new cities and new crowds, it will be better. And I think I personally kind of underestimated that, but there was absolutely merit to that. And I think the big thing with AEW is they are a promotion that really runs on that. Like when there's high energy and there's an enthusiasm in the building, it kind of unlocks like a new level for them, I think. And it's been this consistent trend. I know it's like an easy thing to say, obviously a good crowd's best for any promotion, but they really thrive on that like party atmosphere, right? Where things are kind of triumphant and you're just fueling the crowd with pops and excitement, and things keep moving, which again, there was one segment where it stalled a little bit, but for the most part, things were paced really, you couldn't take your eyes off the show. That is a big factor. I personally underestimate it, but you see in it, with a crowd like this, I think you saw tonight, like, I mean, they got lucky in December, they had Texas, but which is always good to them in every single city, but I think you saw tonight the effect of a crowd that's like truly excited to see the product. And it doesn't hurt when you've got like, a bunch of hometown guys who are on the show regularly anyway. So absolutely a great crowd. I fear for Tony's from safety on Friday. There you go. That's what I'm thinking, goalie. What a show. Emergency press conference. This is the thing, man. I know you're joking around, but like, is that honestly is worth saying? Like, as a wrestling fan, and I don't know if you guys are different, but for me personally, like Joe's my favorite wrestler ever. I would rather see him lose a match like that after a mini program like that with Darby, like 100 times out of 100, rather than him winning against, Jinder Mahal on SmackDown or whatever the fuck. Not even because it fed bad, like just generally speaking. Like that's the stories I want to see my guys telling, man. That was beautiful, man. That was just fucking incredible. Let's talk about head stop for a second. That's a challenging match to put together, right? The first match was this like incredible execution almost. It was like just a pure violent display. Joe kicked the shit out of him, give him a comeback, and they went to finish. It was excellent. It was a great match. And how do you give that a sequel? And I think, the idea of like Darby getting an immediate advantage that feels like it levels the playing field. Very scary advantage of that with that dive off the ladder. That scared the shit out of me. You feel like you level the playing field, which gives you kind of a logical hook for the rematch before the bell even rings. Beyond the match is going to be good. You give him that, and then he can have a little shine, but then you still, because Joe's offense is so believable and Darby's bumping is otherworldly, cut off and you get straight back into where you were, which is Joe kicking the shit out of him, because that's the formula that works. You don't have to overcomplicate it. How can you get into it in a different way? How can you set up differently? Which I thought the jump start really allowed them to do. The finishing stretch was like incredible wrestling television. Unbelievable finishing stretch. These two are really made for each other. And I know that sounds dumb because it's like, well, everyone has good matches with Darby. And you're right to say that, I know. But when Darby's just selling, what makes this pairing so great is that Joe then puts all of his like little extra ingredients in, like he's like flexing and shit and he's counting with the referee. I mean, that stuff adds a flavor to the match that, to me anyway, makes it compelling throughout in a way that another Monster versus Darby maybe isn't. So they're a great pairing. I was talking to my brother because the reason I didn't do a live show was we was watching it together this week before my brother heads home. And we were talking earlier. I said, I think Darby's going to win. And he said, how's he going to win? What's it going to look like? And I said, I was like, I think Joe will very happily make him look like a killer tonight in the end. Joe will get his. He'll beat the shit out of him for an awful long time. But in the end, Darby will hit his finish and pin him. And I think they absolutely nailed it. I think Joe's value is increasingly telling that like he has a little juice left here, and this is an exciting time for him. As a fan, I'm really excited. I think for Darby, it's a case of I think you want to make this guy the quintessential, the ultimate TNT champ. I think that's the focus. I think that's what it has to be. He had a great run the first time. They've told this story that since he lost that, he's kind of been rebuilding and in a different part of his career. I think he can be the world's champ. But I think a good idea now is, while all of these top guys are floating around, what if we just cement Darby as the TNT champion? That would be my play. I think, and sometimes you can trade the belt back and forth. He doesn't need to have a year-long reign. I think it's better, in fact, if it bounces around some bit. It always comes back to Darby because that's the TNT champ. My goodness. Confirmed shoot sending me Toronto Raptors updates now. So, yeah, I thought it was excellently done. I mean, that bump on the code red, like that shit looks sweet, man. I mean, Joe got up for it the first time, but this one, it was high angle, the whole deal. Great stuff. How? Yes. Okay, I'll get this out of the way now because everyone's grinning, everyone's popping. I don't want to kill the vibes. The MJF segment was way too long. I'm not a big fan, as everyone who knows, but like he's better than that. When I say I'm not a fan of MJF, I'm not, oblivious to what he can do. I'm aware of how great he can be. That's why he frustrates me because sometimes I think he's just. And Brian, in promo segments can be very. This is SmackDown actually. It was a bad mix. I'm kind of fascinated as to what ideas they're going to have over the next 2 months because if this was, if this is what they had in January, this is what they get through in February. Not a good segment in my view, but the crowd liked it, so I guess there's that. I watched Omega Ospreay right before Dynamite, so I'm pretty exhausted now. Fair. What a fucking match that was. By the way, I quickly want to do this. I don't do this kind of shit usually, but seriously, if you didn't watch our Wrestle Kingdom Grin along, I think you'll have a really, really, really good time with our reaction to that match in particular. I would assume it's like 5 hours into the video. I forget, but man, we were just just popping at everything, jumping out of our seats. It was just wonderful, wonderful experience. That match was unbelievable. Production was very good. The sound has got a lot better as of late with the crowd. Some of the pre-tape stuff's still spotty, but the crowds are much better mics, it seems. Or they're just louder. I think maybe both. So the new set, I don't know where you guys stand on this, and if you answer in the chat, I'll get to it eventually because I'm scrolling, but I don't mind it. It looks slick. It is very like Fed TV, but it doesn't bother me. The one thing I'll say is this is a little thing while we're talking about it. It doesn't bother me, but it's just a little thing. I would like them to like experiment a little bit with the actual ring, the actual aesthetic of the matches, like the canvas, the apron, the ring mat around the mat around the ring. Like, I'd like them to play around with that a little bit more because I think that's actually, to me anyway, you can add more of a flavor than just like the screens. I haven't got a problem with the screens. I think that would be interesting. I'd like to see them do it. I like the Rampage thing of having the logo. I think they could explore that a little bit. Shout out Shane Douglas. Good evening, Cody, Melissa. Brian says Joe's still my king of television. Fair. As you can see, folks, I'm 10 minutes behind the chat, so I've probably not missed you, and if I have, I'm trying to run through here. Yeah, Sheeter's going to rule as a heel, absolutely. Okay, let's talk about this. This is important. Listen, I know that Jeff Jarrett is not for everyone. I get it. I understand. I respect it. That, though, when you often see me use the phrase, oh, that's real graps. I use it for everything. It doesn't mean anything. But if you ask me, gun to my head, what is actually real graps, I'd say the January 4th Dynamite 2023, the World's Tag Team title match. Brothers, let me tell you something. When Aubrey Edwards was making that call and Jeff fucking jammed his knee in between them and like pushed Aubrey away, that to me is wrestling. I'm sorry. I know it's whole shit. I know it's corny and carny and all of those words that are true. It's just, it was great. And it was so well done. The way that the heels sold Satnam getting thrown out, the way that Jeff sold Billy Gunn being thrown out. I mean, it's just fucking good old-fashioned American wrestling, bro. It was unbelievable. I mean, I thought it was an absolute hoot. I think, I mean, you guys know what my thoughts are on Jay Lethal, but I think if he's going to be around, that's like the perfect role for him because Jeff can plug in all of the little character pieces and the little personality parts. He could just be a mechanic and wrestle, but like, it's a really fun team. And the Acclaimed obviously are like, I mean, not only super over, they've just come so far. Again, I say it every time because it's important to say it. Proven me wrong time and time. I just didn't see this end game for them. And they've got there in like a year. So God bless them. Elliot Fletcher is resubscriber Prime. With us now for 2 months. He says, all hail the LNG, fleet flying, sincerely the leader of the Tiff Strap Bombing Army. Shout out to you, Elliot. I hope you're well, mate. It seems like you enjoyed the show. God bless. Bob says next week looks insane. Factual. Yeah, next week's a big show. Big show. I mean, the ladder match is going to be. I don't know if people are ready for that fucking ladder match, man. That shit's going to be insane. Like, the Young Bucks Lucha Bros ladder match was like a scale breaker. You add Kenny Omega and Pac. Like, that match is going to be fucking nuts. JJ, hope you well, brother. Shout out to the great JJ Williams. I think Darby should be the face of Rampage defend the TNT title on it often. Also, I think FTR signed extensions, but it could just be me. I don't know if they've signed extensions. I will say that I'm, and have been for a while, I'm very much of the belief that they would like to stay in AEW. And it's a matter of, getting the money they feel they deserve. And I would agree they deserve, assuming, within reason. I don't know what the numbers are, but I think it's a matter of pin. But I think they want to be in AEW, and I think Tony Khan wants them to be in AEW. So when you have those two parts of the equation figured out, you can figure out the details. I think it's pretty obvious where they're going right now, right? They're going to come back and work the Gun Club. I think they're actually going to work Jeff and Jay, which is going to be the Joe Holbert dream match, just for Jeff and Dax, locking them up. And then I think they're going to wrestle for the tag belts. And then their contract situation will decide the result of that match. The one thing I think is most interesting about that one is, do they win the belts as heels? They turn to win them. They become desperate and cheat to beat the Acclaimed, or they win them as baby faces and we get a run of them as the FTR we saw last year, just with the AEW belts. I would like the latter personally, but it's FTR, so I'm cool with whatever. And I mean whatever. Those fuckers could get me to watch Impact. Okay. Yes, Britt said the boss. I knew it wasn't Mercedes then because she would have said the CEO. Sheeta versus Tony, absolutely. Tony Khan is in the chat. Pop. I'd like a Sheeta Mercedes team. Sounds good to me, bro. Sheeta and Mercedes in just about anything sounds good to me. Yeah. I have to say, man, like the Guns, I understand why we all kind of scoff at them because it's the Guns. But they've really done a good job with their TV time. I think they've been admirable in that regard. And like the way they throw themselves into everything. Also, shout out to Tony Schiavone for his just unbelievable sell of them tonight. He had a quote at one point where he was like, should we even let them do this? I mean, these guys beat up their own dad. Like, he's still the best at selling the heels being pieces of shit, man. He's great. I thought that segment was actually pretty fun. I don't know what you guys thought, but there was also the line when Colton did his speech and then Austin was like, I prepared something too. And Tony said, email it, please. It's good shit, man. Scraps. Boss Sheet over Joshi stable. That'd be cool. What else we got here? Sorry, folks. I'm trying to catch up. So if I miss you, I apologize. Feel free to just put it in the chat again and if it was so important. Everyone's going to turn heel to face Mercedes. Shades of WCW 94. Incredible reference. This was, brother, look. Remember a minute ago when I said if you ask me what real graps is, I've changed my answer. Doing a choke sell and beating your chest is fucking insane. A preposterous piece of pro wrestling art. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. What else we got here? Yes, I agree. It's the best Joe's been in a long, long time. He's clearly motivated, and I think the big thing in AEW is that I imagine they just kind of let him cook. I don't think BJ Whitmer's coming up to him and be like, hey, bro, sell the leg. You know what I mean? I think Joe just he can paint his picture. I've said this before. There's a really interesting Joe quote where he was like, they asked him about what he was got about in AEW, and he said there's like things and ideas in wrestling that he just thinks he can explore in AEW because he feels like it's a clean slate. And we didn't get many details beyond that because he was kind of vague about it. But I think even with like simple matches like Darby, I think he's really enjoying just being able to be free out there and do what he wants to do because they trust him. Obviously, Tony Khan's a fucking stan, so which I can relate. So yeah, he's doing great. Darby Allin versus Jeff Jarrett Revolution. You got my money, brother. We're getting Joe versus Brian on Dynamite during the MBF challenge. That is, I don't know, bro. That needs to be a program, right? I mean, that happening in 2023 on fucking Turner is incredible bit. Oh, yes. Danielson's wrestling Takeshita next week. That's a good point. Very, very good point. Bam gifted a 1 month tier 1 sub to Nifmang. Nifmang, I'm sure you thanked Bam. I'm very far behind the chat. If you did not and you missed it, please thank Bam. He's the man. Iron Man makes me think Brian is getting the strap even if it's short. I don't think that's the case personally. We'll see. Obviously, it'll pop me. I think that MJF wants to get his flair on a little bit. You know what I mean? Because, like, you know, all of the bits aside, I mean, that's like an obvious influence, and I'm sure he would like to have a 1 hour world title match. That's what he's going to do against Bryan Danielson. If you're going to do it right. Do it against Dragon. You know. Yes, Alex popping at Omega Ospreay was beautiful. Loved it. I like the new set and really like the set. Looks cool, man. It's not like my favorite, but it's not something that I dwell on either. It certainly looks slick. The announce table is actually a genuinely nice touch. That was my biggest pop on that front. Yeah, very Fed TV, Brian's promo segments. Very, very much so. Jeff Jarrett is the real world's tag team champion. Facts. I'm now seeing everyone in the chat's reaction to Jeff, which is popping me immensely. I've been a Jarrett hater since he showed up, but I like what he's done the past few weeks. Boys, let me tell you something. Boys and girls, let me tell you something. They did like a Joe pre-tail something, and then they cut to this like classic wrestling shot where it's like the corner of the arena and you can see the stage and the ramp, and then the My World style plan. And I was watching my brothers and my dad, and I fucking stood up like this because it was 9,000 people in attendance for a wrestling television show, and Jeff Jarrett is coming out with My World playing for a World's Tag Team. I mean, it was just, I'm sorry, man. I think, and I'm not doing a bit when I say this, but this thing he's done with Jeff Jarrett is to me like actual inspired booking, because no one would have predicted or asked for it. It's like true sicko shit. You know what I mean? So often in wrestling now, with the top two like creative guys, they just do stuff that we all could have predicted. Like, yeah, they're just going to go back to their old gimmick, or they're going to get their friend from, you know, like fucking Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal with Satnam Singh and Sonja. That is sicko behavior. You know, that's the work of an animal, and that's what I want from my wrestling. I mean, I want stuff that makes me go, "What the fuck's going on here?" It's real graps. Yes, and they're running it back on Friday. Buy it up. Yes, Gun Club segment was good. I agree. The pictures of FTR were funny. Dax had one where he had his right fist up. It was beautiful. I'm scrolling here. There you go. Shout out to Bam. He's the man. Jeff Jarrett versus Chris Jericho wrestle at Revolution. Bro, let's talk about Jericho. Okay, firstly, before I do, Bam has given another sub in the time I've been talking about how good he is. To Jason 22 PJ. Jason, please thank Bam. He fucking rules. He's done it again. Hold on a second. Whiskey D, my boy, has been given a tier 1 sub by Bam also. This is very, very nice, Bam. You are very, 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 very kind. Both on here and Wrestle Purist. We appreciate you, my friend. Where was I? Yes, Chris Jericho. That was kind of crazy, the end of that match, right? Like, I'll be honest with you guys. I actually thought the baseball bat finish was like a pretty cute finish, because the way Menard executed, I thought was nice, and I thought it was a good idea. Like, he's out, so the referee assumes, and they just used that to like an 80s fucking hand up and down spot, which popped me huge. And I was thinking, they've protected Ricky by having him get out of that. I mean, that's fair enough. He just beat him with a spear, clean the middle. And look, I understand they got their heat back, but like, I don't know. I think that was a pretty big deal for Ricky. I love Ricky Starks. I think he's like the guy. I think the world of him. But he was so like stuck in place for about around 2 years. He just felt like he couldn't climb up the card. Like, no matter what we said about him online, he was just running in place. And like the Hobbs tag team got momentum. They split. They had the weird matchup all out. Then he got the Arthur Ashe win. It was like, finally Ricky's going somewhere. And he stalled again. You know, and then the Full Gear tournament kicked in, and that was not like the hit they necessarily wanted it to be because of a range of reasons we don't have to get into. And it now finally feels like it isn't just the thing that we've made up in our heads. It isn't just the thing we want to see next year. It's actually a thing on the show now. Ricky Starks is a real guy on the show, a real main event guy on the show, a real player on the show. He could open any Dynamite, he could close any Dynamite, and it wouldn't feel weird. And I think this win was a big part in kind of solidifying that, even with the post-match segment, which didn't bother me. My concern would be what happens next. We're going to get a tag match, obviously, that goes without saying, but my concern would be like what happens in the rematch. You know, how does that look? I have no problem with a free match series. My concern would be that it's Jericho wins the feud, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I don't give a fuck right now. Ricky won clean. Good for him. Ricky Starks. Shivani was amazing, absolutely. And also, it's worth noting the Action Andretti got spotlighted in that angle, which is cool. All right, I'm looking here. Yes, Nick Wayne thing was a cool deal. I wondered if they were going to do something even more like outrageous, more insane with Joe for a minute, but what they did was effective. This has to lead Darby versus Hobbs at Revolution, I think. Yeah, that's a very, very fair suggestion. The Hobbs thing is interesting, right? You know, we have the segments on TV. Sort of, I think they're kind of stuttered right now, but they're on TV. They've been on TV. The last time we saw him in the ring was the TNT title match where he kind of was Joe's out in a weird way. And they had that interesting moment with him and Wardlow where they kind of nodded at each other like, yeah, he got us. So that is logical, absolutely. The question would be, you know, actually, no, I don't think that isn't. That's not even a short time, right? That's fair, yeah. I mean, Joe only had it for 7 weeks. Darby would have it for around 8, yeah. Because Hobbs would have to win that match, right? I think kind of. My only question would be, and I'm for it because I fucking love Powerhouse Hobbs, so I'm for him winning anything. My only question, I don't know if the TNT title is necessarily the right fit for him as a talent. But the counterpoint to that could be it's a good belt to get him to be the right fit and get him more matches. So I'm for whatever, you know, as long as there's a plan for Hobbs is the main thing for me. But I think it's a good suggestion. Booking a 1-hour main event at the end of a 5-hour show just shows how insane TK is. Look, I have no issue with a 1-hour wrestling match. The American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, could wrestle Young Dukes for an hour, and I'd probably give it a shot. You know what I mean? I can't lie. It did, cross my mind that these shows are like famously long. And I do think, and again, folks, this is just speculation. I do think there is a chance that it could be like a real struggle for the crowd. Because the thing is, if you're going to go an hour, that's one thing. Once you announce it's an hour-long Iron Man match, you're telling the audience that, like, you know, you can kind of zone out the first. I mean, it's all like, you know, a lot of us nerds won't. We want to watch the match and want to see the details and the story they're telling. And, you know, generally speaking, you can just sort of wait and see what, you know, see the end. Attaching that to a long pay-per-view is risky. If there's a wrestler in the world I trust, if it is Brian, and Max is obviously capable and is more than popular enough to make up the difference in terms of using experience in a match like this. But it's risky. I'll leave it at that, and we'll see what it looks like in a couple months here. But if the big thing for me is whose idea is it? Because if it's Brian, I'd imagine he has a specific picture in mind. I don't think he's just said, give us an hour and we'll figure it out when we get there. Oh my God. Bam's cooking, folks. Hold on a second, folks. Okay. Bam has also given us up to It's Just Airy, Adam, Painful Guy, Goalie, Paul, and Taka. Everyone I just named, please shout Bam. He's cooking right now, folks. Fleet flying indeed. We appreciate you, brother. Jeff got a podcast and showed up in AEW and won me over after 20 plus years of hatred. This was a great moment tonight also. Jeff said no holds borrowed. Elite move. Elite match name. I just fucked up now. See what he does to you? No, but imagine that as a step, you know. That could have been helpful on some of those 0-1 Fed main events back in the day. Okay. I'm seeing more Jeff Jarrett praise. It's popping me. I see you guys. Everyone's popping at Bam. Jeff Jarrett should wrestle MJF at Revolution and go for the title. Factual. Jericho's going to be on a losing streak. It seems that way, doesn't it? Hey, Joey No Crumbs. Who called Ricky Starks winning on Fleet Week? It was Chris. Thanks, Dukes, for reminding me of that. Shout out to Chris. Here Comes the Kid is an all-time Shivani call. Bamamania. Tremendous. Cody said, my days of doubting Anthony Khan are behind me. Joe, do you ever think we get Sting and Omega in a ring together? I'd never thought of it before, but now you bring it up. I think it'd be a shame if we didn't. Sting said he has something in mind for his retirement match. He didn't share it, but he said he has something in mind. With Darby by his side, of course. So I don't know. I mean, he had a pretty great deal with the Young Bucks of Forbidden Door. I think it'd be pretty neat to get something with Kenny. By the way, what a fucking match they'd have had, huh? If you could give Kenny, just give Kenny like 1992 Sting, and be like, there you go, man. Have a match with that dude. He'd put some shit together, let me tell you. He'd have some ideas, I feel. Hook and Jungle Boy next week is going to be cool. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. And that's another one, more sincerely, like I mentioned there about Tony Khan doing like weird shit. That's weird shit. And I mean, that's a positive. Like I didn't see Hook and Jungle Boy being a thing. It's cool to be caught off guard by those things. I don't want to be able to predict what's going to happen next. Hook made the save. He has an issue with Lee Moriarty from previous, and he's also Hook. He just makes saves to pop himself. It's natural, even though you didn't see it coming. It's good shit. Hobbs is from the Bay Area, I believe. That could be a cool moment. There you go. That makes a lot of sense. Oh my God. Sunday Cinepod has been gifted a sub by Bam, and so has Wrestle Purists. Wow. Shout out to Montgomery. What we got here? Bam sees something about something, goes for he's an animal, man. He does. Dukes can work, man. I've said it before. Look, Dukes is up next. I said it. He's going to take my place one day. You got to get used to young Dukes. He did a hell of a job this morning or last night, whenever the fuck that was. He hung with some real veterans in there, and Manny, who is a shooter. Yeah, I've got to be like, I don't have a problem with long pay-per-views. My main thing when I say that is like I'm intrigued by what it looks like from a crowd point of view, but you guys have probably heard me talk about Fallout. I honestly haven't got an issue with the long pay-per-views. I think this is a general read on wrestling that I have. I don't know if you guys watch the same way, but I think you should always be willing to just let yourself, just distract yourself for a little bit. If you're watching the pay-per-view and a match comes you don't care about, just do something else. I mean, I think if nothing else, the value for money on those shows, they do about as good a job as they kind of jam in that shit full of stuff that you might want to see. And I personally usually have a very good time. Some of the pay-per-views last year I thought were a little lower than usual, but they were still really good shows. I don't think they've ever done a bad show necessarily. Well, maybe that Matt Hardy show back in 2020, I guess. But generally speaking, they produce very good pay-per-views to great pay-per-views. So yeah. This is and this is kind of what I was getting to. Like Sunday Sinner says, Sunday Sinner Pod says, not just the Sunday Sinner, there's a podcast here to be clear, folks. Shout out to him. He says, they should have had an hour match without announcing it's an hour match. Crowd knows the match went in for an hour now, so you won't have the same full finish reactions. I tend to agree personally. If you promote it the right way, maybe you can give it a hook and a prestige that kind of counteracts that. But personally, I would have suggested similar, but we'll see what they got. Montgomery says, all right, mate. I got a shout out, Monty, in all seriousness. We're going to have a thing on Wrestle Purists here. I'm not sure. I can put this out then, Monty. Maybe I shouldn't, but I'm going to. Because I've talked about it anyway. But like, those of you that watch these shows will be familiar with the thing I do where we do depth charts, which is just a complete steal from sports coverage. We sit here and be like, who's AEW's top babyface? Boom, boom, boom. We name them off. I've said before that we're coming to Wrestle Purists. I've said this elsewhere, but Monty sent me earlier today, like, what it's going to look like. And as corny as this sounds, we're talking about professional wrestling depth charts. It like legitimately touched me, and I was like moved by it because it is such a niche, nerdy thing that I do on this show and we talk about on here. And it's like the ability and the trust to put that on a site like Wrestle Purists is very, very cool. It really did mean a lot to me. So shout out to Monty. We always give him shit around here, but he's the fucking man. Chris did not no show. He's actually predicted the match correctly. Okay. I got to quickly talk about this. This is like just completely off topic. We're just rolling here. Bam gifted another sub, this time to Chris. Speaking of the devil. Speaking of the Ace, I should say. I want to quickly, because Adam says about Kenny's his go and reignite his interest in wrestling. Genuinely, I think it's not getting the coverage it deserves, the level he's performing at right now. And I know that sounds weird because you're saying, Joe, everyone says the best match ever. I'm not saying the match itself isn't getting enough coverage. It's getting enough coverage, obviously. What I'm saying is it is easy to forget what the conversation about Kenny Omega was 8 months ago. And to me, to my eye, and I'm not as much an expert on Omega as you guys, a lot of you guys are, please tell me if I'm wrong. To me, he looks like his time off has took him back to like 2017, 2018. Like he looks like a physical freak again in there. And I'm just in awe of, I kind of felt like he was going to have to evolve and change a little bit. And granted, last night he wrestled very differently. But he physically appears like unstoppable again. He's one of the great wrestlers. Full stop. You have to put a time, you have to say the last 20 years. He is one of the great pro wrestlers. And what is really interesting about him, I always remember Brian Danielson had this quote where he said, the Young Bucks, you can see their influence, and he named a couple others, but we'll do it here. Like you can see, you compare Darby to someone, I guess, but you could, you could compare a Joe to someone or an FTR to someone, whoever else. And Brian's thing was, you can't see that, you can't trace back Kenny's game. You can't see who the predecessor was, It's just Kenny Omega's take on pro wrestling. He's one of one in that regard. And I have to say, I've yet to rewatch it. I'm going to rewatch it with Papa Holbert tomorrow. But that Omega Ospreay match was like a genuinely breathtaking experience. I was watching that, and it was great to do it live, and we had a really wonderful time. It was great to share it with friends, but I just thought there was such a degree of thought put into that match. And when you combine the quality of work that Kenny and Ospreay can produce with that level of thought and care and detail and just general emotion and drama, I mean, I think it's one of the best wrestling matches I've ever seen. And I know I say that a lot, but I was thinking about it a lot today, which is the sign of something that's worth your time. I was really mulling it over. I'm not saying I have anything insightful to say about it, because clearly I don't, but it blew me away. I was really trying to think of matches that I would deem to be like just objectively better than that in any way in my brain, and I was kind of lost. My favorite thing about that match is there's like a couple high spots that are like very 2023, which is a compliment because I'm not knocking it. But the idea of that match and the core structure and identity of that match is like timeless. Could have played that at any point in history and it got over, Will Ospreay as the protagonist that is like a waltz and all hero, Like he's not like a traditional hero. He's a guy who's certainly flawed and is kind of a dick. He wrestles with such passion, such vigor. And he's kind of like, I don't want to go full Batman here, but like the audience they have such a respect for his wrestling that he's almost just become the hero. Because the G1 match was similar, man. He felt like the protagonist in that match against Okada. Anyway, I went way off on a tangent there, but I just thought it was fabulous. Kenny and Hangman versus Sting and Darby. Tony, you know what I do. My God, James has been gifted a sub also by Bam. Bam is unbelievable. He's in Omega form tonight, folks. Or to quote Elliot, Bam is insane. Actual. Okay. I'm trying to look here. Sting hugging Darby at the end was so wholesome. Factually, it was. It really, really was. Really cool moment to close the show. It's kind of what I assumed they'd close with, but it was really, really great. Duke says, when I gain power and ban Monty from the platform. Tremendous. Dukes is the hangman of the late night grin. Take that how you want. All right. I'm catching up here. Nifmang, I hope I answered that for you in the last 10 minutes there. I know you commented it before I started answering, but I hope my absolute rambles was was a sufficient answer, my friend. I thought Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega was pretty fucking good. If they have the right match to finish Revolution, maybe Bryan and Mox open the pay-per-view. I was thinking that earlier, and I was trying to think of what the match would be. Well, I guess in theory it could be something Mercedes, right? Don't know. I was thinking the same thing, Jason. That's interesting. Absolutely. Danielson and Mox versus Top Flight on Friday. May do a grin along for the Friday shows, fellas. May do a grin along. I'm not sure. I'm going to talk to my brother. Leaves on Saturday, so I would like to, if he wants to watch it, I would like to have him. But if not, we'll do a grin along. And Dynamite grin alongs will be back next week, by the way. Is it just me, or does Kenny appear and wrestle like a bigger star in New Japan than he does in AEW? I think it's a fair point. I think it says more about the New Japan thing that does AEW. Right? I don't think it's a matter of the AEW presentation being bad. It's just the New Japan presentation is like such a perfect marriage. I think some wrestlers are just like at home in a certain environment, and the way things are presented really fits them. I think New Japan and Kenny is one of those because Kenny as a top guy like took shape in the New Japan that structurally and presentation-wise still exists. So when you put him back in that, it's like, it's perfect. It's natural. Yeah, great. Bam is now good for the sub to the great, the inimitable JJ Williams. Big love to JJ. He carried a couple of my features on Wrestle Purist with his extraordinary photography. Please follow him. As though you're watching this, you don't follow JJ Williams. Come on now, Ken and Hangman eventual rematch it with Kenny at full health will put me in the grave, Duke says. Yeah, man, I that's one you definitely want to see. Like, I like the Kenny and Hangman match a lot. Obviously, it was really, really great, but I didn't get as much out of it as a lot of folks did. But the one I really liked was their match at Daly's when they did like the bombs. They did like a 20-minute fucking bomb fest at Full Gear 2020. If we could get like an extended cut of that with this Kenny, that would probably be more my shit, I think, with Hangman. So, yeah, I'd like to see that for sure. I'd like to see them tag again, actually, too. I mean, obviously not full time because Kenny needs to do some single stuff here eventually. But, yeah, as a one-off or two, that'd be nice. Kenny and Danielson rematch, one of the biggest matches they can do. Definitely. Joe says, I've had the opinion that while Bryan has possibly the highest floor of any pro wrestler ever, Kenny has managed to reach higher highs at times than Danielson never has. I would agree with that, yeah. I would agree. I think I've said before, it's not a hot take to be clear, but I've said, before that I think that Kenny and Okada is like the height of, if you do the wrestling art form thing, which I personally do as a fucking nerd, it's probably the height of it, Like there's like a marriage of everything that wrestling can be. Those matches are kind of it. So I think Kenny's highs are probably the highest of any highs ever in the world of pro wrestling. He is someone who is very much willing to experiment, and like that creates more range in results, perhaps. Obviously, he's also a guy who is like very willingly goofy, which is not a criticism, but that will affect that kind of thing too. But highs, big match. I need a guy to go out there and have a classic. Kenny Omega in his peak condition is pretty much unmatched. I think that's absolutely a fair take. This is a good point too. He didn't look tired, which is nuts. That shit always blows me away. Chris, I'll see you Fleet Week, brother. Any grinners going to LA next week? If so, tell JJ in the chat. Monty says Dukes will drop the ball before he gets power. I have nothing to worry about. Dukes will be another wrestling media what if. Oh, right alongside me. We are not wrestling media. Please watch product. That's true. We are media's rival firm. Do you think Mercedes shows up next week a lot? Yeah, I do. I'll be stunned. I mean, the way they did the segment this week, I think, it's pretty clear that it's going to be shenanigans, and Britt did the boss thing. So, yeah, I think it's happening. And also, like, it's just the natural. Like, I understand wanting to work Japan is great, and is fucking cool for a big star to want to work Japan. Like, just objectively it is. But, it's a natural thing to do alongside that, right? Like, they're just perfect partners in that regard. It's a big strength for AEW. I mean, it's part of why Brian's there. Let's be real. Bam has also gifted a sub to Don't Have an App. Bam has got us to, like, he's legitimately added, like, 15 subs tonight. I haven't got the stat in front of me. But we have, like, nearly 60 subs now, which is almost all because of Bam. Thank you, brother. Okay. Yes, this is a good point. Like, genuinely, Kenny's this like singles run that's going to come after the trio stuff, which the trio stuff's great, to be clear, I'm not knocking it, but the singles run that's going to come after that is like going to be mind blowing. I think people that have never seen him outside of AEW. Thank you, JJ. Okay. If anyone did not see the aftermatch promos from Kenny and Will, go watch it on New Japan's YouTube. I didn't see those. I'm going to check that out, Jason. Thank you. Hangman and Ospreay is another match that needs to happen. Great call. Yeah, they would beat the fuck out of each other. That's the thing about Ospreay that I like genuinely enjoy the most is when he just whacks guys. Like, his chops and stuff. He hits really hard, man. His match with Dax was really fun in that. They like 13 minutes just fucking walloped each other. It was good stuff. Pop. Good stuff. Good Lord, Dukes is getting a shit kicked out of him. James was not as big a fan. I'm sure. I'm just trying to look quickly. I like the Wrestle Kingdom, James, but it's worth noting that I watched it in a fashion where I just would simply stop watching it because I could instead just bury Bob to Alex and Matty and co. So I can't give you a very analytical viewpoint on the whole show, and I had a good time, but I get you. Santana returning. I don't know what the deal is that. Someone told me that Santana and Ortiz were both at the. I don't want to speculate too much on their friendship because I really like both guys and I hope it's. I don't know if they're bad, but someone told me they were together at Brody's concert. I forget what his band's called. I'm sorry, but maybe, man, it'd be nice if that got worked out, even if they're not going to be a tag team anymore. Because I fucking love those guys, and I think it's kind of a bummer if that's what's happened. We'll see. I'm rooting for Santana whatever happens though, because that was really tough. If he was coming up to the end of his deal and he tore his knee, that's brutal. Really, really was. There's more Dukes talk. He's dominating the conversation right now, which is popping me. Yes, absolutely. That was, dude. Because I've been like fortunate enough to see. I've been fortunate enough to see him a handful of times now live. But what's funny is I saw him back in 2015 when he was like just a flyer, and now he's like this guy who just is like a spiteful striker and whole game. Falls on the Red Velvet stuff. Also, who beats Jade now that Chris is gone? Mercedes. I think it's okay. I mean, I don't really. I think really what's happening is that like Red is just, Red is still is like the best person who's had matches with Jade, multiple matches that were good. So you just go back to it. Works for me. I don't think she's going to win. I saw Goldie said it could be fine. It could be fine. I wouldn't be against it, but I'm not even doing a bit. Like, I think you have to keep her undefeated until you get to the Monet business. Willow is a good one. Willow, I think they're going to do the Ring of Honor title with Willow. I would keep her on AEW TV, but I want to see her wrestle Athena, so I'm obviously more than happy to accept it. Okay. I'm looking here. Do we have anything else to discuss as we wind down? Because coming up on an hour here shortly, so anything else that must be discussed? Bangers. Please speculate wildly on the unconfirmed rumor that Bow Wow has vanished off the face of the earth because he was the gateway to bringing Naomi to face Jade, and then Paul called. Makes a lot of sense. Ask questions, JJ. JJ, I don't know if you know any big-time prominent scoopsters, but if you do, hit them up for me, right, bro? Interesting, I don't know. It's an interesting theory. Bob's got a theory. This guy stinks, am I right? Check out the 31 with Robert O'Neill. He also buries He also buries Dukes on that, I think. He used to have that vibe. I can't remember the joke. I wrote it, but I can't remember it. Okay. All right. Anything else? Yes. I like that match, James. I like the Rampage match with Kiera and Jade. This is Kiera'S best performance in AEW so far, honestly. She looked like really confident in there, which is something that I think's not always been the case in her AEW run, unfortunately. All right. Let's do some. Bob has watched it. Yes, I got a text from Bob, which I have not replied to. I'll do that now on the air. Bob messaged me. Holy shit. Omega Ospreay was an all-timer. What a match. So he watched it, which is very funny considering that we spent so long just saying publicly on a live stream that he wouldn't watch it and he's a piece of shit. In hindsight, probably not fair. But he did watch it. He considered it to be an all-timer. I'm now going to reply with this picture of Jim Ross. So there you go. Thank you, Bob. We hope you're well. You think Oracle will enjoy that Omega Ospreay match if forced to watch it? The Eve part is too. It just couldn't happen. You know, we'd have to like physically get him, and it just be. It couldn't happen. There's no way he's watching that fucking match. Honestly, bro, there's a lot of people on like, you know, on Twitter that are the same way. It's just they're not gonna watch a 35-minute Ospreay Omega match. It is what it is. People like different things. Like, I think it's a shame because I think that match was like, as I said, I think it was timeless and it to me was not at all just like excessive moves, which would have ruled anyway. I would have had no issue with that, but it was clearly more than that. It was like an actual, a classical take on the epic, you know, a traditional take on the epic in a lot of ways, plus some extra modern, like, you know, high spot violence, stunts and such. Unbelievable match. Fuck. What a match. What? Fuck it. I have to ask. Not fleet related, but since there was no Fed Dead this week, that's not my fault, by the way. Joseph, please let me know your thoughts on All Cats vs Bianca. Bro, it fucking sucked. I thought people were like dramatic in terms of why it was bad, because there was the one spot without a miscommunication. But the main reason it's bad is because it's just like a bad idea, it's like conceptually bad. It's a 19-minute draw, 19-minute DQ finish, whatever the fuck. 19 minutes, which is insane. You have this situation where the crowd is like happy Alexa is mean again, and it's like kind of cheering her being mean. They also like the spooky stuff for some reason. So like you're kind of fucking Bianca over, but you have to protect Bianca, so she has to take a lot of the match, which then undercuts what you're trying to do with Alexa as a heel. So you're like achieving nothing with two people going in completely different directions. And then the work's bad on top of it. You know, I don't know. Like, I think it's not my place to say. But like, I think Alexis seems kind of whatever on a lot of this stuff. And I absolutely understand. I think we've all been there with our own shit. So, you know, God bless. I hope that the Rumble match is better. I would like for the Rumble match to be better. I'm not particularly confident on that because I don't think Alexa is really, you know, necessarily locked in as a pro wrestler at this point, which again is absolutely fine. She isn't claiming to be. God bless. Okay. This is true. That is unfortunate. Duke's doing the Miro's filming a TV show. Did your fandom? This is an incredible pivot we've taken here. Did your fandom of Lexi all caps start off as a bit, then you worked him into becoming a legit fan? I don't think it was initially a bit. I mean, it pops me. It's a good bit. I like a very strange collection of wrestlers, folks. I mean, it is what it is. You know, it's a different kind of fandom for each wrestler. Like when I talk about being a Carl Anderson fan, it's not the same as my fandom for like Dax Harwood. You know what I mean? Like there's different levels to it. But I enjoy Alexa on the TV show. I mean, not so much now because she just doesn't seem really, again, no problem with it, but she doesn't really care. Which again, fair. But yeah, she was fun in the mid 2010s. She was a really fun heel, legitimately. Her best singles match since she returned was the EO one. We didn't have to talk about Alexa Bliss. that pop your money. Yeah, it was good. She's had good performances, to be clear. Her stuff in the tag matches was really good. I just don't think she's like, sitting there all week wondering what she can do when she wrestles Bianca Belair on Monday. It's like, it's work, Most wrestlers are like that. I did not see the Machine Gun Hammer interview. I have to check that out, Paul. Thank you very much. Right. Let's take this home here before we do a Grin Grappler Alexa Bliss impromptu. I want to see Miro and Shingo. I want to see Miro and General James. I know you're the same. I miss him. All right. I want to thank you guys for the last 20 hours or whatever the fuck. It's been a really, really, really fun time. Very, very special one last night. I think it's hard sometimes. This platform is such an interesting experience for me because while I'm not the leader, I'm kind of at the wheel. There's no leader. It's fucking the late night Grin, but I'm kind of like, I'm here for most of the shows and stuff. And sometimes that can be like, it can be challenging because it's not something I'm experienced with from a content point of view. I was in one spot where I was a role player, spark freeze, and now I've got like the ball in my hands and the clock's going, and it's a really interesting experience. And I have genuinely learned a lot doing it. And sometimes you kind of look and you go, what the fuck have we achieved here? And I'm not going to tell you we've achieved a lot because it's still a wrestling platform that, is very, very niche. But the new year was very, very challenging for me. Feel free to leave the show, folks, if you don't care about this. This is sappy stuff, but I didn't get a chance to talk about this, and I don't do it on Twitter anymore because Twitter's bad. But the new year was very challenging for me because it's been a year since I, quote unquote, as we say in the game, bet on myself, which is a thing that we only use when we win. And moved on from Fightful, and love to those guys. Enough, it was a great time. And it was hard the new year because it's like I have a lot of stuff in the year that I didn't like how I did, and work that I wasn't happy with, and you can beat yourself up a million times over. And I'm not saying that to ask any of you guys for sympathy or ask you guys to like, no, you did good, Joe. Like, that's just my read on it. Like, I was disappointed with a lot of stuff I did, and I definitely could have done a better job kind of steering the ship, quote unquote. So you can kind of get in those like lulls where it's like, fuck, what are we even doing here? We can go anywhere. Are we doing like, and I don't know if we are, I don't know what that means really in this space. It's wrestling conversational content, bro. What are we going to do? Fucking, slit to the ringer. But I will say I had a very, very kind of, I had an interesting moment there when we got off the show last night. And, I watched Rear Window because, of course, I did. Great picture if you've never seen it. I was thinking a lot. And I thought to myself, that was one of the great wrestling matches I've ever seen. And for around 50 people, maybe. When they think back to when they watch that match, we're part of that memory, Like, we're, like, in that memory. Like, us, myself, Alex, Matt, Dukes, Manny, you guys in the chat that, everyone interacting with, like, we are like a part of that. We're like a collective experience of that match, that moment. And we share the memory of fucking Carl Anderson taking a flatback on a cutter. We share the memory of whatever it was on that show. And it was really like a really cool moment for me because I don't really think about stuff a lot. I think a lot about the negatives because I think that's what we do kind of generally. And it was very, very cool. I looked at our stats for last night and I was like, fuck, man, that's pretty neat. We had I think we had like 400 unique viewers just stop through. It's like, I don't know how long they were doing, if they liked the show or disliked it, but like they were there for a little bit. It's cool. So 2023, I'm excited. I'm really, really excited. I think it's a big thing for me to like understand what this platform is at its best and not try to crowbar into something else out of my own ego. Like just try and make it like a real platform so I can prove a point and all this stuff. Like, fuck that. That's not fair. But this platform is at its best when it's just like a hangout. And it was that this morning or last night, wherever you're at in the world. And I'm truly thankful for anyone that was there, that anyone that's watched on delay, that anyone that just supports in general, because it means a lot. And we say that a lot, and it's a cliche. And I've been going on for 10 fucking minutes now. I know it's boring, but the truth is, you know, I've just sat for an hour with you guys solo. If there's no audience, it doesn't exist, you know. And sometimes in 2022, I've done a very poor job of doing my part of the game, which is making this fun for you guys. You know, this is a distraction, folks. I mean, wink. This is a distraction, and we're supposed to make the game more entertaining. We're supposed to make it more fun for you guys. You know, whether you're loving the wrestling or not, watching these shows should make it better, not worse. And I have failed more times than once in that regard. So it is my plan, is my hope, is my mission to avoid that moving forward. And I say this a lot to a lot of people, and it's a big goal of mine. And tell me to shut the fuck up when I don't do it. This platform and the Wrestle Purists, wherever I'm at, I want you to hear me talking about the wrestling, not me talking about other people's opinions on wrestling and talking about the discourse and all that shit, man. Like, I need to move on from that. I've been in the game too long. It's boring. Doesn't do anything for me. You know, not good for me mentally, not good for my work, any of it. So let's fucking make the most of what we got in wrestling. Let's enjoy it. Let's enhance it as a community. Let's make it better for everyone. It doesn't mean be positive, wrestle joy shit. That ain't what I'm doing. I'm just saying, let's fucking make the most of it. You know, let's have fun. Let's talk about wrestling in every which way makes sense for us. Let's explore it. Let's analyze it. All of the above. But let's do it our way, and let's do it with a certain sense of optimism and enthusiasm. And that's the goal this year. So I'm genuinely excited. The last few months, last few weeks, I've not been able to do so much. My brother's been home, and I've prioritized that because that's important. But next week we start rolling, and there's going to be written work. There's going to be, you know, these shows are going to keep going as they were. Dynamite, Grin alongs going to come back. Let's make the most of this, because there's a lot of good in wrestling, and it is shows like this that should, you know, make you enjoy that all the more, not make you focus on things you aren't as into. We can talk about them. We don't need to be fucking miserable. You know what I mean? So that's the goal. I just did a 10-minute monologue about my own life. That's very, very bad. Shouldn't do that. But nonetheless, we're here. We're done. Okay, I appreciate you guys. If you are watching this on the YouTube delayed post gimmick, you could join us tomorrow for the flagship, 9 p.m. Eastern, latenightgrin.com. It'll probably be like 3 hours of us just... Oh, no, it's the Golden Grinnies. LateNightGrin.com. You can vote on the Golden Grinnies, our very, very special awards program. And then we announce the winners Thursday, 9 Eastern, LateNightGrin.com. So that's Thursday night. I'm very, very excited for that. Friday, maybe the Rampage Battle Belts Grin along. If I'm not watching it with my brother. If I am, then I will not be able to do that. But we'll get to it eventually, stuff like that. So much to look forward to. Please feel free to suggest stuff, folks. Always important to me. If you want us to watch something in particular, tell us. You want me to review something in particular, tell me, and I'll try my best, whether it's a written article or a video, whatever the fuck. We'll try our absolute best, right? Because it's important. This is not just me just fucking throwing shit. You tell me what you want to catch. You know what I mean? So, finally, big thanks to everyone that tuned in. I want to quickly just note, Matt, Alex, Manny, Dukes, all of them, unbelievable company for the 6-hour Wrestle Kingdom program. Everyone on our squad, you know they are. There's like 12 people now, but I truly, I appreciate them all. Stardom, Owen, I agree, mate. We need to do a Grin along for one. I think we'd have a hell of a time. And Alex is Joshi fan, so we can do that. Old school Joshi fan, but it'll still pop him, I think. Maybe Matt, Alex, and I can do something. So I like the idea, Aaron, for sure. Yeah, they're all great. Whole squad. I love them all very, very much. I'm sure you have your favorites and least favorites as part of the game, but Lebowski, we need to do that. Good couple. So big love to everyone on the team. Big love to everyone in the community. Thank you for joining me impromptu tonight for this Dynamite post show. I'll hopefully see you for the Golden Grinnies tomorrow. Stay tuned to WrestlePurist.com for a whole bit pop with the depth charts and such. We love you, folks. Keep grinning. All hail and enjoy this outro. Good night, everyone.